Green buildings. Buildings are big consumers of resources with big impacts. In the U.S., they consume 48% of all energy and 75% of all electricity, and they generate 45% of all CO2 emissions. In much of the 20th century, buildings were seen as machines for living. Using the machine as a metaphor, fueled by cheap fossil fuel energy and cooled mechanically, they could be built in any climate using exactly the same forms and technologies. In the 21st century, many buildings are designed and built using a different metaphor. A green building uses the living world as its instruction manual. It uses the free sources of energy and water that are available around it, sunlight, wind, rain, so that it can use natural daylighting, passive solar heating, and natural ventilation to reduce energy requirements. It uses non-toxic materials locally sourced. Like a living organism, it is adapted to the specific conditions in the particular place where it is. Well, some people wonder what style is a green building. It turns out that it can be any style. We measure how green a building is not by how it looks, but by how it functions. If there is a style at all, it lies in regional differences growing from the fact that each green building is adapted to its local place. A large body of scientific research has shown that not only do people have an aesthetic preference for certain forms of nature, but contact with the natural world is actually important to human well-being, physical, emotional, and intellectual. The concept is known as biophilia, an innate affinity for nature rooted in human biology and evolution. Biophilic design is an evidence-based approach to architecture, which recognizes that the presence of natural daylight, fresh air, and connection to the natural world affects our health, our ability to learn, and our productivity. Humans are part of nature. Livable cities. Within the next 40 years, population will grow and cities will grow. During the same time, aging infrastructure will reach the end of its life and need to be replaced. And the passing of peak oil will mean an end to the era of cheap fossil fuels on which cities currently depend. These converging trends point to an enormous opportunity to design and operate reimagined, regenerated cities in ways that are different and better than before. Livable cities are pleasant places to live. They have safe, healthy neighborhoods, economic opportunity, and social inclusion, with food, work, schools, shopping, and social spaces all within easy walking distance or reachable by easy-to-use transportation. Opportunities for piecing together open space networks and reweaving the green urban fabric can be found everywhere, in pockets large and small. Imagine green living networks linking parts of the planet, including our cities. Imagine what that means in a city where green roofs, small backyards, town squares, parks, school grounds, and tree-filled cemeteries are all functioning ecosystems dotting the city with patches of habitat, all connected together into a network by greenways, swales, and healthy stream corridors. Food. Before the 20th century and the invention of fertilizer and pesticides, all food was organic food. Food can be grown wherever there's soil, schools, yards, rooftops, or in patches of public land, like parking strips, utility easements, and parks. Soil is the foundation. Soil is a renewable resource, but it forms slowly. It takes about 1,000 years for 1 inch of topsoil to form. Soil is a complex ecosystem with vast numbers of living beings, where one creature's waste is another creature's food, and nothing is wasted. More creatures live in one handful of healthy soil than there are humans on the entire planet. Taking care of soil is essentially ecosystem conservation, except that the ecosystem in question is underground. And finally, working as agents for change. A larger purpose underlies sustainability work: transformation, transforming civilization toward a regenerative system which promotes healthy ecosystems, consumes resources no faster than they can be replenished, releases toxins no faster than they can be absorbed, allows wastes from one cycle to become nutrients for another, fosters healthy, cohesive communities with opportunities for all, and continues into the long-term future. Moving toward a more sustainable world requires true partnerships among very different people. The issues we face are comprehensive, and the only way to take sustainable solutions to scale is to include everyone. You can't do everything. You can't be an expert at everything. There are many directions in which to work, and like an ecosystem with many niches, we need them all. When we look at the world and read it as our instruction manual, one thing we notice about living systems that are resilient is that they all feature diversity. Whether we use words like sustainability and social justice, or we use other language, we can talk about outcomes that are positive for everyone. Strong, thriving communities with economic opportunity for everyone, participation in governance by as many people as possible. The biosphere is our life support system, so in order to have those other things we want, we have to keep the life support system in good shape. Humans have gone through several major transitions in their history: the discovery of fire, the development of language, agriculture and settlements, and the Industrial Revolution. We now live at the threshold of another major turning at the beginning of the Anthropocene epoch, as humanity moves away from an industrial age built on fossil fuel and economic growth, and towards what could turn out to be a steady-state economy within a regenerative, sustainable society. Can we envision what life on the other side of the transition might be like? It seems clear that nearly every aspect of our modern way of living will be transformed to some degree, from where and how we grow our food, to how we transport ourselves and our goods, to how those goods are made. We can expect a resurgence in high-quality, durable goods, locally made and reused for generations. The mission of education will expand, teaching learners about local ecology and giving them experience with skills for self-reliance. Civics will become important as people relearn skills for participating in democratic governance. Humans will take a more active role in the health of the biosphere. Job markets will shift as some jobs become obsolete, while a new green economy with its jobs appear. We may still drive personal vehicles occasionally, but most people will take advantage of interconnected public transit networks. Energy will come increasingly from renewable sources transmitted over networked microgrids. Communities will be more decentralized and more resilient. Buildings, landscapes, food, and social structures will look different in each place as placelessness becomes a relic of an earlier time. Human connections across the globe using information technology will continue to build collective learning, even as local clusters become more self-reliant and resilient, a robust exemplar of classic scale-free networks at a planetary scale. A question often raised, is whether we should be optimistic or pessimistic. Should we feel hope or despair? This may be an unhelpful dichotomy, for both hope and despair ask us to predict a future that is in fact unknown, and both give us reasons not to act. What we know, based on reliable evidence, is that, at the least, Earth's climate will be changing and its oceans will be rising for centuries to come. The era of a petroleum-powered, ever-expanding economy will come to an end. And a significant portion of species alive today will no longer be with us. To feel sorrow and even despair in the face of this reality is reasonable, a stage of grieving as we move from denial to a more productive stage. On the other hand, blind optimism, the belief that all will be well because nature always finds a way, may not be so productive. We should remember that if nature makes adjustments, its new state may well not include us. There is a third path, action. A Latin proverb says, "If there is no wind, row." The way to move away from both debilitating despair and paralyzing optimism is to choose to act from a position of engaged, active hope based on a positive vision. At the beginning of the civil rights era, when a realistic assessment showed clear evidence of racism embedded deeply all around him, Dr. Martin Luther King's speech was not, "I have a nightmare." His speech was a call to action. "I have a dream." Find a place to stand. Choose what you love. Start from there. Do what you can. Connect with others. What we know about networks, systems, and resilience tells us that all of us, acting collectively, can shift the system's trajectory. Now,